How are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good. So I'm Yvonne. We're the ones that have been connecting via email. And it's such an honor to meet with you this morning. I've been so excited about having this opportunity. So we first just want to congratulate you on being the first recipient of the Global Citizen Prize for 2020. And I guess that makes you Canada's first Hero Award winner for them. So we're just wondering if you can talk to us about this award and what it means to you and your organization, Help a Girl Out.
Yeah. So the award came as a complete surprise to us. We are so thrilled and kind of still in shock. It happened in December, but we're still kind of in shock and just reveling from like the after effects. But I feel like the award means a lot for Canada as a whole, not just for Help a Girl Out, because the award highlights, I feel like they could have highlighted any social injustice happening in Canada, but they chose to award a period poverty organization. So I feel like that says a lot for the menstruation movement in Canada. So this award it's very big, and I'm hoping with the influence that we'll be able to make some changes to our society in Canada. Yeah.
Absolutely. Can you please explain what period poverty means and what your experience has been with it?
Yeah. So period poverty is lack of access to essential menstrual supplies. So it's not just not being able to afford menstrual supplies, is also, even if you're able to afford them, not having access to them. For example, somebody, a child in middle school or high school, and they get their period at school, and they'd have to leave school to go to a Shoppers Drug Mart or to go home. So they'd miss out on classes that they'd have to catch up on and all these things. And it's also not something that's very secondary to me. Period poverty is something that I have experienced for a lot of my life, living in Jamaica and also here in Canada. So I have been that high school student. I've had friends that were those, high school students. And even when I graduated and I was going to Ryerson, there was still a lot of times where, I'd only have $10 in my bank account. Would I spend those $10 on period products? No, because I had to commute to Ryerson because I live in Brampton. So, and there were no supplies available at school. I know Ryerson has the sanitary dispensers, but they are all empty. I think it was a pilot project that failed, and they never restocked them. So, yeah, so I had to, ask around classmates, friends, and chances are I didn't get a pad to use. So you end up have to use, toilet paper, which is not very absorbent. So yeah, we really, really, really need to, bring about access to menstrual supplies, especially in schools. Yeah.
Yes, and I know the other big item that you promote as well is menstrual shame. So can you talk about that a little bit as well, please?
Yeah, menstrual shame and stigma it's even bigger than period poverty. Because menstrual shame and stigma affects, I'd say, every woman, every single one of us. And it's just basically the taboos, having to call your menstrual cycle something other than your menstrual cycle. For example, time of the month, moon time, all these, I forgot what the name for them was. Anecdotes, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, you'd have to nickname it all these things. And also you wouldn't, like in certain cultures, you wouldn't speak to the men in the family about your menstrual cycles. In a lot of Muslim cultures, when they're going through Ramadan, they weren't able to eat in front of the men, right? Because when you're Muslim and it's during Ramadan, you can skip the fast during your cycle, right? So a lot of the times, girls that were on their menstrual cycles weren't able to eat in front of their father and their brothers, so they'd hide in a closet And in some other cultures, they'd sleep outside. So, there have been news stories where people have died in menstrual huts. So menstrual shame it's really, really big, and it's one of the biggest barriers to my organization as well. Um, for example, we do a lot of campaigns called No More Bloody Secrets, where we share period stories, positive ideas to change the conversations, to make the conversations more positive and open. And a lot of times we get a story entry and they tell us, okay, but please don't share it because, I'm ashamed. So it's a very big thing. And I've also experienced it too. When I was going through period poverty, I didn't reach out for help, because of that shame. And it was very hard for me to go around and even ask my friends for sanitary products. So it's a very real thing. And I feel like it affects every woman. There's, even like, even at in your workplace, when you're on your menstrual cycle and you're a little bit, say you're a little bit cranky, you know, you don't want anybody to say, okay, you're PMSing because you're a woman. You don't want anybody to kind of, um, look down on you because of that, or, use that as an excuse to disregard your feelings, right? So people don't usually say they're on their menstrual cycle while at work. So that's also an example of menstrual shame.
You're absolutely right. We were wondering too, and over like trying to overcome the taboo of menstruating, what cultural changes have arisen, and how have you dealt with those changes? So we were happy to see some of those examples that you've just given, especially in trying to respect the different cultural norms that the women may be honoring. So do you feel you've been successful in that regard in the reach out that you've done? Because you reach many different cultures and I know the organization, especially with the award, it's gone worldwide with regards to the recognition and what you're doing. So have you had women from other countries and outside of Canada reaching out to you since?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's always a challenge, dealing with other cultures. Especially every culture comes with its own set of belief systems, traditions, like all these things that we have to take in consideration when we're approaching them about, menstrual topics. So, for example, in Jamaica, um, there were a lot of girls who we were helping. We were giving them both pads and tampons. And there is a cultural stigma around tampons in Jamaica where they believe that it affects a girl's virginity, right? So because of that, we had to scale back everything, repack the kits, all of that. And it's actually not true. So, different myths from different cultures also affect our work. But I feel like we have been successful because the main thing you have to do is be empathetic, towards everyone, every culture. This is their way of life, and for a lot of people, they don't see the stigma until put it out there in their, like in the open. And even then, you know, it will take time for people to accept it. So you just have to be patient with that. And you have to be very understanding. And I feel like it's been a learning curve,
Mhm.
because you'd think that it's obvious, but really it's not. So you just really have to be very understanding, very patient. But you also have to push the boundaries a little bit because um, you're trying to change the conversation. You're trying to force social change, right? You're trying to force people to accept this very natural thing that they have looked down on for, centuries and centuries. So yeah, it's a very tricky thing with different cultures, but it's definitely possible. And we haven't, hurdled over all those boundaries just yet, but we're definitely on our way.
Absolutely. And even when I was thinking about what I grew up with here in Canada, we obviously have a sex education program in the schools. But the only other time that I remember talk about even menstrual products was back in 2015 when former NDP MP Irene Matheson had sponsored a private members bill, which ended up getting passed in the House of Commons to remove what was called the tampon tax from all menstrual products. But obviously removing the tax isn't, enough. So we're wondering if you can suggest other measures that maybe the government can implement to help eliminate period poverty. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, removing the tampon tax was a big step because a lot of countries still have that tax on there as if it's a luxurious item, but yeah, it's not enough because, for example, I'm still that student with $10 in my bank account. Removing, $2 off of it, like it doesn't do much. You know what I mean? Like we need to have sanitary products accessible in schools. So, I mean, if we extend that to the entire country, that's a win-win, but at least in schools. And I'm passionate about that because I was that girl way too many times, and I've had friends that were in that same position way too many times. And if you'd go and ask them right now to come forward and speak out about it because of the menstrual stigma, they might not come forward. So it's one of those things where it yeah, it's very discouraging sometimes, but it's a very real problem, and I know how real it was for me because at the same time I'm still, I still feel a little bit of stigma and a little bit of period shame even when I come forward, right? But I take that as, you know what, it's my responsibility. Like I have to do this. I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it for all those people that I know and all those people that are also suffering in silence. So even though I'm also like, I don't want everybody to know that I used, plastic and cardboard and toilet paper when I couldn't afford sanitary products. At the same time, there are a million girls out there that, are scared to come forward, and I have to be the one to speak up for them. So, if the government could allow sanitary products to be accessible in schools, at least, that would be a very, very, very big milestone for me.
You're absolutely right, because it seems like it shouldn't be happening at all right now, right? In 2021, you would think that this, shouldn't be an issue. So what would you say to the people who have no idea that this is happening in their societies and actually maybe deny that this is a problem?
Yeah, I've come up against a few people that denied that it exists. What I would say to them is there are studies out there with statistics if you're a statistical person, or go around and actually ask people, um, encourage a safe space and actually ask people, and you will see it. Because if somebody came to me and asked me, I would tell them honestly. But yeah, I have experienced a lot of people saying, no, not an issue in Canada. This is a developed country. Everybody can afford a pack of sanitary pads for $8. There are sanitary pads in the dollar store. I've heard that from people. And it's very discouraging, but at the same time, they just don't know. I understand that they just don't know. So, I'm understanding, but at the same time, as a public citizen, you need to, be informed, get informed, ask around, look at the statistics, and actually, we're not lying. It's a thing.
Absolutely, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Do you feel that COVID has had any effect on period poverty? Whether it's like the same, worse, no different?
It's definitely worse. It's
Okay.
it's definitely worse. Um, you know, I'll, as obvious as the lost jobs, the jobs that have been lost, so people are more strapped for cash.
Absolutely.
But one major thing that affected even me and still does during COVID is the fact that all washrooms are closed when you leave your house.
Right.
Uh, so I know there's a stay-at-home order, but I live in a household with 3 or 4 essential workers, right? So they go out and they commute to their jobs, right? There there are no washrooms open. So when you're on your menstrual cycles, where do you go to change that?
Right.
So I've, come across, I guess I wouldn't share my family's story, but sometimes you have to stand on the bus because you haven't changed your menstrual pad in a little while because you haven't been able to find a washroom.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's also a thing. And I know if it's affecting our family, it's affecting a lot of families out there as well, even though you don't see them on national television, speaking about it. It's
Absolutely.
there. It's like one of those silent issues. And a lot of people aren't, for example, say you are staying at home and you don't have money to go to the Shoppers Drug Mart and buy a menstrual pad. Another option would be, calling around and, asking people, going to school and asking people, going to work and asking people. If you're at home, you're kind of isolated to use whatever you can find in your house, right?
You're
So there's,
absolutely right. And
yeah.
those are experiences too I had even had. I didn't have, I'll say, as maybe a comfortable relationship that it sounds like you and your mother had with my mother. So it was my friends that were my kind of go-to when it came to anything about my period. And it was then that I was going to and asking even for products because I was like scared and embarrassed to go and talk to my mom about it. So that's why I think what you are doing and the whole Help a Girl Out organization is just absolutely amazing for talking about this and bringing it to the forefront. And it's almost like you are that friend and that support that every girl and every woman needs. So can you talk to us about how Help a Girl Out came to be?
Yeah. So it was after, you know, it was after one of those times where I wasn't able to afford products, but thankfully my friend, she went to Shoppers Drug Mart, she bought me a couple packs and, I stored up. Um, After that, I actually went into a washroom in Toronto and I saw this lady and she was cleaning up in the sink. And I thought to myself, if I am a student, and, I'm not even, as worse off as somebody that's, living on the street and I can't afford products, what do they do for products? Right. And I got so emotional and I went home and I was just like, you know what, I have to do something about this. And I drew up this page in one of my sketchbooks and I planned out Help a Girl Out. But then I forgot about it after I did that. And then I was in the washroom and I was thinking to myself and I was like, why don't people just help us out? So, so it was almost like I almost called this nonprofit Help Us Out. Um, but then it changed over to Help a Girl Out. And even then I was a bit, because I was about 17, 18 at this time, right? I was a
Wow.
bit timid to start a nonprofit. So what I did was I would, I got a credit card and I would buy products for the people around me that were experiencing period poverty, just like my friend did for me. And I actually bought products for care packages, which I walked around in Toronto and I gave it out to, different homeless women that I could find. And then I racked up like a $5,000 credit card debt. So I was like, okay, that's not smart. And then I walked into a TD Bank the next day. I opened a charity bank account. And then I came home and I went on Corporations Canada and I registered as a non-for-profit. And then I put out a social media call for help for people to donate
Wow.
products. And thankfully, people donated products and I began paying down that credit card bill. But then here we are 4 years later. Yeah, I was only 19 when we actually, officially started.
That's absolutely amazing. Like even to have that forethought and then obviously, everything seemed to fall into place for you in some respect. What about challenges? Did you have any challenges in establishing it?
Oh, absolutely. There's so much I didn't know, right? Uh, and a lot of things that I had to learn because I'm an introvert naturally. To network, to ask for donations, to go around and talk to people about something as stigmatized as menstruation and period poverty, I had to kind of step out of my comfort zone.
Wow.
So that was a very big challenge for me. I did it because I needed to, right? I felt like I had to speak up about this. And so I became kind of extroverted, you know. It's sort of like one of those TED Talks I watched that she said, pretend you're an extrovert.
Yes.
So that's what I ended up doing. That's one of the challenges. We've had a lot of setbacks with just things that you didn't know. Like there are a lot of things that you can Google certain things, but there are a lot of things that Google doesn't tell you.
Right.
For example, when we were doing our first couple of outreaches, there's a lot of border security papers that we needed that weren't provided by anyone, but I had to, kind of draw them up myself. But
Okay.
then no one told me about this. So, there was a time when we almost lost our products that we were sending aid for, right? After all the hard work of collecting it. So that's something that after that one occurrence, we learned from that and now we do it. But if you don't know these things like work in like the import and export industry, you can run into those issues. So yeah, with every outreach that we do, there's always a learning curve for me. But thankfully now I have a team and we're working together. So I mean, and even now with Global Citizen, I feel like everything is just finally like completely established. So now we're just moving forward and getting everything done. But yeah, in the first couple of years, there were a lot of challenges, especially as a teenager doing this.
Absolutely. That's like absolutely amazing. And even with Global Citizen, aside from you like winning the award, are they also giving you support in your cause, not just financially, but also just with their team? Because I know you have a pretty amazing team, but I know as well they bring a lot of experience to the table with regards to just what they've done like worldwide as well. So do you also have access to that type of support from them as well, being the winner?
Yeah, I believe so. I haven't really reached out for much, right? Because they have given me so much
Yeah.
just with the recognition. There have been so many doors that opened just with, the award. It's been a great push. So I think I'm still reveling from how many emails are in my inbox, frankly. So I haven't even like requested support from them, but they're a wonderful team of people. And if I ever needed anything, I'm pretty sure I could reach out and they'd be there to help me. Yeah.
That's amazing. And even with Help a Girl Out and the purpose that it serves to the community at large, it's amazing that you have that support as well and that you have like great people on your team to help further the cause. Can you please tell us more about your collaboration with the Indigenous nonprofit, Finding Our Power Together? I think there's even a Ryerson connection there, is there not?
Yeah. So yeah, they were I think a couple of professors and students, maybe master students at Ryerson, who founded it. And last year there were there was a new case of COVID in one of the remote Northern Ontario communities. So there was this like great panic to get them supplies, right, for masks and gloves and sanitizer and all those things that they really weren't prepared for. And I remember the following semester, we saw a documentary about food insecurity, and it was just going through the supermarket and it was showing the menstrual products, everything, and how expensive they were, right? And they're paying pretty much triple the price that we're paying
Wow.
because it has to go that far up there, right? Because it travels by land and then it travels by air. And I just thought, okay, no, like I need to find a way. And so when Finding Our Power Together, put out the call for assistance, we're like, okay, they're already sending a truck up there. They already got the plane, let's do this. And we packed about 300 care packages and we
Wow.
shipped them up there. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Really, really big. Yeah. I was really, really excited for that. Yeah, that was great.
For sure. Are there any other collaborations that you want to promote or talk about?
Uh, yeah, there are a lot of things in the works right now. We are launching our period product support program, where we're also looking for collaborators on that project, as well as we just got grant funding from Toronto Pearson,
Wow.
from the GTAA. So we are launching a specific project for that one, where we'll be supporting 1,000 girls with 5 reusables each. So the project is called 5,000 reusable pads for at-risk Canadian girls. So we'll be sewing 5,000 pads. So right now we're still in the planning stages. We're looking for sewers to sew all 5,000. And then we'll be launching that in the summer. So that will be in collaboration with the GTAA.
That's amazing. And I think we are going to be talking about collaboration after the interview today with the St. Jamestown Community Corner. So we're very excited about that opportunity as well. So we thank you for that too. One of the reasons as well that we wanted to interview you going into March, we're at the beginning of March now, is International Women's Day. And the theme for this year is basically #ChooseToChallenge. So we're wondering if you could talk about what you view as your main challenge today and how you're going to overcome it.
My main challenge, I have a lot of challenges. In relation to help a girl out, choose to challenge the tradition, right? The tradition of shame. Just go against the social norm, because that's what it is, right? The shame attached to menstruation it's a social norm. It's one of those things like pink is for girls, blue is for boys. It's one of those things, and it's going to take a while to completely get rid of that, So yeah, choose to challenge the traditions and the social norms, I'd say. Personally, a challenge right now would just be completing school, because I'm also a master's student at Ryerson, and I'm doing my master's in physics. So I don't know how to say choose to challenge with that one, but I'm just trying to get through school, run a nonprofit, and run 2 businesses on the side. So
that does sound very challenging, but you're definitely owning it and like beating it. So good for you. I guess as a society member, what do you think that we can do to help create more awareness surrounding the feminine issues? How can we help you out?
Well, I know right now is COVID, but educational workshops, definitely, and raising awareness. A lot of people still don't know about period poverty. If more people speak up and have conversations about it, we can change that. And by doing that, we'll also find more people that have been suffering in silence, right? And the best way that I've found to raise awareness and to find more people that have been suffering is to do educational workshops. So these workshops teach women about their bodies, what the school curriculum doesn't teach. It breaks down myths and, cultural taboos that have been put on menstruation, as well as, we encourage a safe space so people are able to share their experiences. And I don't know about a lot of other folks, but I just know that I'm more comfortable speaking about my period now that I've just been forcing myself to talk about it. So I feel like educational workshops force people to kind of just look it in the face and talk about it. So that would be my advice. We do educational workshops here at Help a Girl Out, but we also have started programs where, for example, the Jean Augustine Center for Girls, they do their own workshops, but we're the one who pitched the idea. So definitely pitch the idea in your community as much as you can, after school programs, that sort of thing, and have a period talk.
Thank you. We understand that the Country Hero Award is a new award category for the Global Citizen Prize 2020 that honors individuals around the world who have shown exceptional commitment to the global goals in their country and globally, championing the most vulnerable people. The winners, selected from 7 different countries, will receive a prize of $10,000 to help support their projects and to advance progress toward the global goals. I know there's 17 goals. Can you speak about how you will use that prize to further your cause?
Yeah. So the $10,000 that we receive from Global Citizen is being used to fund our period product support program that we're starting, as well as there were a lot of things that needed to be put in place for Help a Girl Out, but we weren't able to financially do so. So with that $10,000, we're now able to put those programs in place and get those things in order. So I'm really, really grateful for that. You know, for a long time, I've been funding Help a Girl Out myself and with my credit. So, you know, that has been like a really major push for us. And so, you know, especially even now with the funding from Pearson, I feel like now we'll be able to go forward and actually help all the girls that we can find that are experiencing period poverty.
That's amazing. And I know you've mentioned already as well that on top of like founding and running Help a Girl Out, you're studying biomedical physics at Ryerson. And I believe you're also an associate professor there, are you not?
No, I'm a TA.
You're a TA. Okay, thank you. Can you just speak about the objective of your studies and what your long-term goals are?
Yeah, right now I'm studying computational methods, but my research project, sorry, I'm just trying to think, okay, I don't want to overwhelm you guys, but what should I mention? So my research project, which is the focus of my master's, is we're trying to develop a new nuclear imaging scan for proton therapy cancer treatment. So it's essentially when irradiating a tumor with protons, we need to be able to see inside of the person so that we can adapt the treatment to, for example, their breathing, because when you breathe, you move around. So being able to create adaptive treatment will, you know, enable more accuracy when we deliver the radiation dose. And it will also give less, less radiation to healthy tissue. So basically radiation kills cancer cells. No, radiation kills all cells, right? So if we irradiate, for example, somewhere in the brain, we need to have that exact accuracy so that we don't go over and actually damage your brain, for example. Yeah, so having that new scan will be able to help us to do that more accurately. So that's what we're working on.
That's amazing. And then before, I know we were talking as well about the big inspiration that your mother like was to you, you know, beginning with the observation that you had of her making your own, you know, menstrual products. Now that you're an inspiration to girls and women everywhere, can you share any advice? Is there anything that you would like to say to them?
Say to girls or say to mothers?
Both, if you like.
Yeah, I would encourage mothers to talk to their daughters about menstruation and their first period long before they get it. You know, for a lot of cultures, that's a lot to ask, you know? So, especially in my culture, when I was growing up, I never got that talk, right? And even after I got my period, I never got that talk, you know? And then when I went to school, I didn't get efficient, you know, information. I just got, okay, this happens to women every month. But why? Why? What's its importance? You know, what does it do? Like, what is bleeding? You know, is it me losing blood? Like, where is it coming from? You know, all these things that I didn't learn until I went to high school, right? And not even first year in high school biology, like because high school in Jamaica starts at grade 7, which is middle school here. But even in grade 7, like the curriculum with periods was so very short and just, it wasn't, you know, very, very much information. Like I came to Canada, entered grade 9, and I still didn't know exactly what my period was and what's its importance, right? So that fuels the stigma. Because when somebody tells me that my period is dirty, I can't tell them, no, it's not because it's this, this, and that, because I don't know,
Right.
right? So a lot of people, you know, have that stigma around menstruation because they don't know, right? So teaching them about their period will, you know, enable them to stand up and say, no, it's not dirty, it's natural, it's, you know, it's healthy, it's all these things. But without that knowledge, they aren't able to say that. And, you know, you can't really dispute the cultures that, you know, don't have conversations with their young ones. Like
Mhm.
my mom, I can't really dispute that she didn't have the conversation with me because she didn't know.
Mhm.
That's the thing. You know, the curriculum back then, and for a lot of parents that didn't go to college and university, it's, you know, they learned very little in high school about it. So my mom really didn't know. So she did the best she could, and she raised me to be like a wonderful woman, and I'm very
Absolutely.
thankful about that. But we definitely need to, in schools, provide sanitary products and provide sufficient education.
And I think you're absolutely right there, because I feel I learned about what my period was and what it meant, but I didn't know what to do when I had it. So there's also a failure in that respect as well. So it's great to see that you talk about the whole, right? It's not just one part of it. It's about what it is and that it's okay. And this is how you can, deal with it.
Yeah.
So just going back to the whole help a girl out, it's the full package, right? It's the full information, and removing that stigma. So I personally and the organization just really want to thank you for being a hero for girls and women everywhere. I believe and we believe that you truly are an inspiration, to the world, and that they definitely need more people like you who can spread the empathy, the kindness, and the support. And we just sincerely wish you and Help a Girl Out every success, Yanique.
Thank you.